Did you hear that?
Now we gotta raise our hands.
Oh, my.
Okay. Sidetracked.
It has two eyes. I guess you're looking at me, how many are looking at you?
We don't have a reference monitor, right? You do. It's not me.
Are we all set? It is 6:05 on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. Call this meeting to order of the Oscoda Planning Commission. We can all rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of our guests to today's meeting. It's nice to see people looking back at us. Mr. Schultz is not here. Bear with me for 1 second.
Okay.
Member roll call. Mr. Tadger? Here. Ms. Hopcroft?
Here.
Mr. O'Connor? Present. Ms. Beckner?
Here.
Ms. McKenzie?
Here.
Mr. Linderman is here. We have 6 to 7, we have a quorum. Moving on to item number 5, approval of the planning commission meeting minutes from August 7th, 2023. They were in the packet. Does anyone have any comments, corrections, or concerns with the minutes from August 7th, 2023?
I have one. I recall Mr. Rob Young making a comment, and I didn't see it in the minutes, and I can't quote what was actually being said, but I remember something about his construction outside of his window, bedroom window or something like that. Anybody else can recall that?
I think it included something about his bedroom window is 5 feet 6 inches from his property line.
Yeah. He's present.
Oh,
He can clarify it if that's okay. I mean, I don't want to misquote anything.
Mr. Young?
Yes, yeah, that was correct.
So-
I had invited the board to come to the property, take a look and see that the line was 5 foot 6 inches from my house, my bedroom windows, basically. And again, that I was 100% against the construction being done on that property is I pretty much believe I said almost quote to quote on that. Thank you for letting me clarify that.
Bedroom window.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yeah.
Point of information, could we say for the record what case that was in reference to, just so our record's accurate?
I believe that would be 108-2023. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns, comments for the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes with the addition of Mr. Young's comment, the notation that he made a comment and the substance of the comment.
Support.
I have a motion by Ms. Hopcroft, supported by Ms. McKenzie, to approve the minutes with the amendment from Mr. Young. Hearing no further comments, roll call, please. Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie,
Yes.
Ms. Beckner,
Yes.
Ms. Hopcroft,
Yes.
Mr. Tadger,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman, yes. Let's go back. Now we're going to move into item 7, public comment. Public comments, please state your name and you'll have 4 minutes for your comment. You can give me a second for the timer. I will set it up for us. Is there anyone for public comment?
Mr. Chairman, good evening. My name is Adam Flory. I'm an attorney in Saginaw, Michigan. I represent Kathy's Investment and Kathy Maxwell and Tom Maxwell. Mr. Chairman, I am intending to address what's listed on the agenda as item 10, subpoint 1. It's, am I correct that the commission would prefer that I wait until we arrive at that item?
Well, this is a point for public comment, so you have 4 minutes to address that.
I understand. I prefer to speak, I guess, in the context of the review of that application. I just didn't want to forfeit my opportunity to speak. And so if it's acceptable to the commission, I'll just hold my comments until we get back to that provision of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask how to spell Mr. Flory's last name?
Yes, it's F as in Frank, Lory. And the firm is Smith, just common spelling, Bowville, B as in boy, O, V as in Victor, ILL. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself, and I'll just hold until we get to that time on the agenda. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Mr. Palmer?
I don't really have a comment, just, you sort of missed the agenda and additions.
Oh, I did roll past that, didn't I? We will back up. That. Moving back to item 6, instead of public comment, the agenda, are there any additions, corrections for the agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
Motion by Mr. Tajer, support by Mr. O'Connor to approve the agenda. Hearing nothing further, roll call please will be Mr. Tajer,
Yes.
Ms. Hopcroft,
No.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Beckner,
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie.
Yes.
Agenda is approved. Moving past public comment. We do not have a public hearing. We have no old business. Moving on to new business. And before we start new business, I'd like to introduce Mr. John Eichengelli. Oh, I'll never get that right. I'd like to introduce John. He is the township's planner,
Yes,
and I'll let you introduce yourself and if you'd like.
yes, for the planning commission, I know some of you that I've worked with before, but John Eichelangeli, I'm a partner at Beckett and Rader. I'm a professional planner, and I have worked with the township off and on probably for the last 5 or 6 years on special projects. As a kickoff to number 10I, which is rescind the special land use permit for case number 108, 2023, I would like to point out to the planning commission that during getting ready for the meeting, the preparation of this meeting and discussion with Tammy, we discovered that Mr. Maxwell, the applicant, was not officially notified by the township regarding this agenda item. So as a result of that mishap, our recommendation would be that 2 things. We postponed this item until the next meeting, or if Mr. Maxwell so wishes to proceed, we can proceed with the action this evening, but it's really going to be up to the applicant in terms of if he wants to proceed with the decision-making of the planning commission, or we recommend postponing it until the next meeting so that he's properly notified by the township and the meeting is posted accordingly. We're trying to unravel some procedural issues, and we don't want to get too far down again. with the procedures that need to be followed. So that's what we're recommending. Either we postpone tonight, or if Mr. Maxwell and his council want to proceed, we can do so, but it's going to be their decision, not ours.
At what point do you plan on communicating with us? Because I've had zero communication as to reason.
That's the reason why I'm recommending that we postpone until you receive notification of why we want to rescind the SLUP.
Mr. Chairman, would you like us to speak at this point?
Actually, I would, because there's some information here that we need to know.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, my name is Adam Flory. I'm a partner with the firm Smith Boville and out of Saginaw, Michigan. One more time, your last name, sir.
Iko Angelo,
I'm gonna call you John.
just call me Jim.
I'm going to call you John. So, Mr. Chairman, initially, again, I'd like to thank the commission very much for having us here this evening. I am a municipal attorney. I represent about 40 municipalities, including the city of Alma, city of St. Louis, Cotchville Township, which is where Saginaw Valley State University is, and many, many others. So I'm very familiar with these processes and with the granting of SLUPs and attending meetings. And so one thing I know for certain is that none of you are in this for the money, and it's a very thankless job. So we'd like to thank you very much for your time and attention here this evening. Mr. Chairman, we have a couple of concerns regarding this proposal. And number one, I think we can all agree that my client has been granted a special use permit. And I think everyone agrees that because there's been a proposal to take it away. So everyone agrees that he has it right now. So it's when a individual or an entity obtains a special use permit, they have a property right in that special use permit, no different than they do in their home or any other property that they own. And the government can't take your property from you without compensation or without some kind of mechanism that's spelled out in the ordinance. That's the substantive position. The other issue is the procedural due process position. Number one, this is required to be noticed as a public hearing. It was not. My client was required to be given proper notice. He was not. My client hired me on Friday afternoon, immediately before the Labor Day weekend, and today, of course, is the Tuesday after the Labor Day. So I appreciate John raising this issue, and we certainly concur with his thoughts. Actually, to be discussing it right now is an Open Meetings Act violation, and we're not interested in pursuing that. I just want to note that for the record. We want to be friendly, but this should not have been brought in this way. The only reason my client even found out about this is because he happened to read the agenda like any other member of the public would, but he never got notice or anything else. And so I think to some degree, adjourning this and taking it up does the planning commission meet on a monthly basis?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so taking it up then in October, I think would do some good to perhaps address some of those procedural due process issues. And then we can kind of get into the more substantive issues. I have many points that I'd like to make in regard to those substantive issues. Chief among them, we don't really understand what the allegations are against us. And that's chief in the interest of due process. You know, anytime it's like arresting someone, but not telling them what you're arresting them for. So we've not been told what are the issues that we need to correct. And so we're interested to know that. We really can't participate in an intelligent discussion without that. And so in the interest of time, Mr. Chairman, I won't belabor the point any further. We do want the adjournment. My client's not had an opportunity to gather witnesses or evidence on his behalf. I've not had an opportunity to work this matter in full, given that I was hired on a Friday afternoon before the holiday weekend. And so we would respectfully request the matter be taken up in October. And, we can go into the more detail at that time. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to go into the detail right now, but my guess is that you wouldn't want me to put everyone to sleep right now. You'd rather have me do it in October. And so with that, I'd be happy to hold that until the October meeting when we can go into a little more of the substantive issues. I'd be happy to answer any questions that there may be, Mr. Chairman.
Well, hearing what I've heard from Mr. maybe John
John,
and yourself, I believe in fairness for all parties involved. I will make a motion to postpone case 108-2023 until our next meeting in October, so you can have dialogue with the parties involved from the township.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, may I inquire as to the date of the October meeting?
Be the first,
At 6 P.M.?
yeah,
Mr. Chairman, by my calendar, that would be Monday, October 2nd. So this evening was on a Tuesday because of Labor Day.
correct.
Okay, so Monday, October 2nd at 6 P.M.?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, my client and I greatly appreciate the township's amenability in that regard, and we'll be present on the 2nd. Look forward to having a discussion at that time. Thank you.
Mr. John, is that,
That's,
is that,
yeah, I agree with the way that this is going and with the counselor's recommendation as well, to postpone until October. And in between that time, we'll notify the applicant specifically of why we're requesting recension of the SWP.
thank you. So I will still make my motion to postpone case 108-2023 until October 2nd, 6 P.M. Support.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
this will be a public hearing. in October.
yes. So I have a motion by myself, supported by Mr. O'Connor. Any further comment from the board? Hearing none, I will call roll call. Mr. Tajer,
Yes.
Ms. Hopcroft,
Yes.
Ms. Beckner,
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman, yes. No, sorry, Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
I am sorry, sir. Motion is approved. Thank
Thank you,
you for coming, Mr. Maxwell. Thank you for,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We thank the members of the commission.
and we look forward to speaking with you in a future date.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on to new business, item 2 is the first read of the quarter business district amendment. Ms. Hopcroft, are you a part of this? This new ordinance, or
I did submit edits on this ordinance. I don't know if everybody received them. They weren't. A lot of them. So I can provide my edits on the record if you wish, because I just have 3. I think. Did anybody else see them?
Yeah, I've read them.
You read my edits?
Oh, I didn't read your minutes. I didn't get that.
I didn't see him either.
Okay, that's because, well, we're still having the call.
Hold on 1 second. This ordinance was,
Let me give you some background. Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Nicole had presented to the board amendment to the US 23 F41 commercial zone for gas stations as a special land use. Okay. However, what was missing was the standards for the special land use, which is critical for the planning commission to evaluate a proposal on. So in discussion with Tammy, I prepared an ordinance that both amends the US 31, the F41 districts to include a fuel station, vehicle fuel station as a special use, but then I also prepared the section of the standards that would go into section, into Article 9. All of your special land use uses, your SLUPs, like the one that was part of Mr. Maxwell's for a mini warehouse. All of those standards are listed in Article 9 that the planning commission needs to evaluate before they make a decision either to approve or not approve. And the reason why I changed the title from gas stations to fuel vehicle is that probably within 10 years from now, we're gonna have a combination of gas stations and electric charging stations, and possibly even natural gas stations. So try to get rid of the terminology gas station and just put down fuel vehicle station to give you a little bit more latitude in the future in terms of how things are trending now with electric vehicles. I want you to be particularly thoughtful and take a look at the standards that I've listed, because those are the measures that you're gonna have to go through to determine if an application meets those standards, which were missing in the previous ordinance. So the purpose for today's reading is to have a first reading, then set a public hearing, at which time you would solicit public comment on the proposed ordinance before you would recommend either revisions or approval or denial, whichever direction, before it eventually gets to the township board.
Do you have the document pulled up by chance?
I do not. Tammy has a copy.
There was one item in there that caught my attention. It was under item for 9.12.50 vehicle fuel station.
Yeah.
You scroll down to item O.
Item O, okay?
The installation and use of the oil water separator with modern capabilities.
Yes.
Is that something as a township we can mandate, or is that more of a state of Michigan who regulates fuel stations would have that in theirs?
It depends on the gas station. Some of the larger gas stations include this type of separator in order to monitor any type of contamination. Some smaller gas stations may not, so you want to mandate, this is a best practice, that you have a oil water separator that's got the capabilities of notifying the manager of the facility that oil is leaking into the storm sewer. Or gas, just not oil, it's also gas. In
Correct.
case somebody has they top off their tank too much, you need to know. And Eagle's gonna need to know as well.
Mr. Tajer, you have any comments or?
Yeah, so this amendment, the definitions, these standards, they will be in the corridor business district ordinance itself, but does it also just add the definitions in our 165 ordinance as a whole?
Yep.
And along with the standards?
Yes.
going there?
Yep.
Okay.
So, Mr. Schultz. Ms. Upcroft.
Just two, at 9.12.50, under C, I would delete the first phrase that says in the opinion of the planning commission and then put a capital T on the. And my reason for that is that we are enshrining into law something that we want to be the law of the land, the law of Oscoda. And so we won't care down the road about the opinion of the planning commission anymore. That's kind of, it's part of the conversation now, but I submit that best practice from legalese is to exclude that now. I would recommend that.
So noted.
I have Mr. Akan.
Ooh,
John Ives.
John,
Okay, and my other one is for similar reasons in number 5, severability. Same. I would similarly exclude the language township intends and then have it read there, the said portion shall, because we are decreeing, or township will be decreeing.
So delete intends.
Yeah, delete township intends. I would have it read the said portion shall.
Okay.
And then delete 2, be disregarded. And then all the way up to fullest extent possible by law, turn that period into a comma, delete the next 2 lines, and then here's how I would say the next part of it. And the remainder of any such article, section, subsection, sentence, clause, phrase, or portion shall remain in full force and effect. The operant terms being shall remain in full force and effect. That's my suggestion, to just be a tighter way to say that.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I have one more, but I'll keep going down the line. Ms. Beckner,
I have nothing else.
Ms. McKenzie. Mr. O'Connor.
Just the guy I need to have sitting here. Background, I'm retired 3rd generation out of the petroleum business with my family.
Okay.
I'd like to go in here. There's just a whole bunch of things that need to be upfront. The people building the gas station know what they're up against with the state of Michigan, with NFPA 30, et cetera, et cetera. The general public doesn't. And we've had some of our neighbors in here questioning things that even this commission doesn't have all the answers on, rightfully so. That's not where we're going. But we want to make sure that that is also in here, that we will be following the guideline, and I'm not saying what has to be, but something in there that would direct them to where they need to get that information. I know I'm not phrasing this quite right, but do you see where I'm going? The direction.
And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if you could give me some proposed language relative to what agencies would be typically involved in the licensing and in the monitoring of gas stations, we can include that in the ordinance.
And so much of that is found under the Michigan Underground Storage Tank Authority, because that's pretty much what they follow. There are also what the general public doesn't know is a financial assurance of who's responsible if there is a problem. I love the fact that you put the oil water separator in there. Years ago in normal gas stations, there was an oil water separator and people just it kind of fell away from that. But it is the last defense to being able to shut off a fuel spill, however large or small it may be, before it enters into our stormwater area for the township. And it's one of those things that people in the petroleum business are very aware of. So we're not doing anything new or anything that is even questionable or you know, where do they come up with these ideas? The other thing is item M under the same, it talks about retail items sales and things being loaded up outside. From the other side of the coin, we went through that for years and years with different municipalities. Is this going to be new to us?
I don't think it is, if I remember some of the gas stations here. But the reason why it's in there is that the planning commission has an opportunity to decide where on the property any outdoor materials can get stored.
And at this time, I mean, I don't know, because I just read this over the weekend. Do we have, if we have this, are we granting special short-term permits for, because we all know one of them on US 23 has huge pallets of mulch out there and many different things. And we can go on, and that's why I'm not naming a name.
That gives you the opportunity to decide if they can have it, and if they want it, then you can decide where it's gonna be located, so it doesn't cause any impairment to vehicular traffic.
Sure.
Or
I just wondered if we had it in place now, because it would be news to me and.
No, you don't have it.
We don't, okay.
This is a whole new section in your ordinance.
Okay.
Vehicle fuel.
And then, didn't know you'd be here, otherwise I had all kinds of questions. That'll be good for now. Well, I'm sure if we get some more.
And you said that that website is the Michigan Underground Storage Tank
Authority, yes.
Authority. Okay, I'll check that out.
I think if you Google building a gas station in Michigan, you're gonna get a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good comments, thanks. And
Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Hopcroft, may I get your written comments? I didn't,
Yes. I
I'm
can
not a
email
speed
them
writer,
to
so
you.
that last clause, I'd like to get your language on that.
Yes, thank you.
And my last one was M also, Mr. O'Connor brought up. Do we really want to push that approval back to the planning commission, or should that be something more internally?
I think the planning commission needs to take a look at something like that, because as you had mentioned, some gas stations where it's not regulated, during some parts of the year, they fill their outside up with mulch and deer feed and all kinds of stuff, you know what I mean? So the planning commission should be aware of, if you want to allow it, where it should be allowed on the site. So, you know, it's a safety issue, okay? I've got some communities that only allow it up against the building, I've got some communities that allow it in the front or on the side, but it depends on the site location and the circulation of where you want it to be allowed. The reason why I put it in is you're gonna get if you didn't have this in the ordinance, you're gonna get somebody that's gonna come to Township Hall that has a gas station saying, I want to put mulch outside, where can I put it? So I figured, if we're gonna, we might as well have it in the ordinance to give the planning commission the opportunity to determine where it's gonna be on the property,
So that'll be really a case by case
case by case.
basis per, okay, that's what I was getting at. I didn't wanna have a revolving door with people, well, I wanna put mulch today, I wanna do pop tomorrow.
No, it's case by case, and then you can actually designate on the property if they're gonna do it, where they're gonna do it.
I like that even better.
So when they bring in a final site plan for a special land use permit,
It would have.
they would have it listed where they would want to
They'd have
put it
the
there, and
outdoor
then we would have
storage
the
area.
opportunity to either agree to that, or we could change where that location would be on their final site plan.
Right.
I like that. Any other questions on the first read for this amendment? Mr. John, are you good with the
I'm good.
input?
Yep.
We need a motion to bring it back in the special or
No, you need
public
to,
hearing,
you need to make a motion to establish a public
public
hearing
hearing for that date.
for October 2nd.
I move that we establish a public hearing at the next meeting for the corridor business district amendments.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Tajer, supported by Mr. Schultz for October 2nd, public hearing. Hearing no further discussion. Roll call. Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie,
Yes.
Ms. Beckner,
Yes.
Ms. Hopcroft,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Tajer,
Yes.
Mr. Linderman, yes. Moving on to item 11, report of the zoning board of appeals representative.
Haven't had a meeting, so.
No meeting. Item 12, report from the township board representative, Mr. Tajer.
Yeah, we had a resolution for the Charter Township of Oscoda authorizing an application for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Grant Fund for acquisition of real property known as the Hull Island in Oscoda, Michigan. That was approved. The board received and accepted a retirement letter from Chief David with regrets. And the board also gave a certificate of appreciation to Ms. Robin Savage for her exceptional work here at the library, which was very well, both times something like that happened. Also, Ms. Savage also presented a request from the library to hire Moran Ironworks student body to create a mystical creature. Mythical creature, a dragon reading a book, an 8x8, to be commissioned and placed out here in front of the library, which I think was an excellent idea, and that was approved. So it was good things happening in Oscoda. That's about it.
Got those. Report on the planning commission subcommittees. Top row, do you have anything?
The ordinance subcommittee has not met.
Are there any other subcommittees that have any information? Hearing none. Report from the EIC committee, our meeting is tomorrow. Thursday, yes. We do, October 14th is the meeting at the Warrior Pavilion.
I believe it's September.
September. Date. I will get everybody that notice. It's on my phone, actually. Moving on to item 15, comments from the planning commission members. Ms. Beckner.
I have no comments at this time.
Ms. McKenzie,
No comments.
Mr. O'Connor.
Are we in any trouble with any other special land use permits that we've granted lately? I'm still fairly new to the planning commission this year, but are we setting ourselves up for other problems that that may occur in things that we have just done? I.e. Skeel Street Apartments or anything else that we've done lately?
I'll pass that on each. That's kind of a great segue into the last agenda item, which was report of the planning and zoning director.
Oh, well, I'll let it go then.
I mean, that's exactly what I was gonna talk about.
Okay. No, my telepath, it doesn't work this far.
Let me finish with the board members real quick. Ms. Hopcroft?
I would like to say that I've been, members of the public have spoken with me and they are eager to see some action taken on the vacant business ordinance registration. And so I said, well, planning commission is very interested in that and we will do our part.
Mr. Schultz?
No.
Mr. Tajer?
I just want to thank John for coming in and helping us out during this time. I greatly appreciate that. I've had the pleasure to work with John over the last 6 years. His expertise in planning, and John is the very person that wrote the State Street Neighborhood and Business District and the Corridor District, and is working on our Flight District rezonings, along with several other things that our master plan updates. He was influential in the parts of the RRC certification process when it came to planning. And he's helped us along. He's actually helped write an article in the Michigan Planner that we were featured in. Thanks to John and his help in that. So John's been a great supporter of Oscoda Township for many years now, and I just wanted to thank him for that. And that's it.
In my comment, Mr. John, you alluded to it, Mr. Tajer did, that you were rewriting the Flight District form-based code. That was quite some time ago when we started that process. In the meantime, we've approved a project on that area. And I was wondering, is there an update for a timeline to get this before because there's some property that's for sale in the Flight District, and I'd hate to get the ball rolling and we change the ordinances.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have it on my internal calendar to have a draft for you. Actually for your October meeting, because on my calendar, I wanted to send it over here at the end of September. So that'll probably be one of your agenda items in October.
I just didn't want us to get too far ahead with approving
I agree.
items there and then the zoning changed.
Correct.
Well, thank you, and I'll leave it to Mr. John.
Okay, I just wanted to, while I was here, the question was asked, have there been any other SLUPs that may have been done differently? I don't know, because I wasn't part of the review process in terms of how you handled it. But delving into the case that we'll talk about next month is that in your ordinance, and I wanted to give you a copy of it, Article 9 is your special land use permit section. And under section 9.5 application requirements, number 2D on page 216, it says a complete site plan containing all applicable data in Article 10 needs to be accompanied with the application for the SLUP. A complete site plan means that it's been engineered, it's been sealed either by an architect, an engineer, or surveyor, or landscape architect, and that it's been reviewed by other outside agencies. So if it's located on F41, it's got to be reviewed by the County Road Commission. If it's on 23, then it's got to be reviewed by MDOT. You need to have things like your soil sedimentation erosion plan submitted. In some communities, they actually have that reviewed by the county, and the application requires a letter from the county saying they've reviewed and approved it. The reason being is a site plan. Let's not think about a special land use, but if somebody comes in with a site plan, it's a permitted use, but they're required to have a site plan. Under the state statute, if they meet all the requirements in your ordinance, you have to approve it. And you cannot attach conditions to a site plan, but you can attach conditions to a site plan that is part of a special land use permit. So that's why they both have to come in when you're doing a special land use. The permit application and the site plan come in together. Because when you approve the special land use, you need to also approve the site plan. And it gives the planning commission the opportunity to attach certain conditions to the site plan that you would not normally do if it's permitted by right. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
Okay? Just an out-of-the-box site plan, it's thumbs up, thumbs down. Either they meet the requirements and they get approval, or they don't meet the requirements and you're not gonna approve it, or you're gonna table it until they come back and meet the requirements. Under a special land use permit, you have the ability as part of that approval to attach conditions to the site plan. But the site plan has to be completed. My understanding was that the basis for your SLUP on the case that's in question was that the site plan wasn't fully completed yet. In fact, my understanding is from talking with the township engineer and with MDOT is that neither have reviewed and approved it. So MDOT hasn't issued any permits, and they're actually waiting on the township engineer in terms of what he's gonna do relative to the stormwater before they even consider a permit. So that site plan isn't fully evolved yet, all right? But that's why they both need to come in together. So you do not accept, with a special land use permit, you do not accept a conceptual or a preliminary site plan. It has to be a full, complete package. Now, your zoning administrator, who I typically refer to as the gatekeeper, should not approve that even going on the agenda until the application is deemed complete by the zoning administrator. Because that way the record is complete, and then that's the basis for the planning commission's review and determination. So there's a certain sequence of steps that an applicant has to go through before it gets to you. And one of them is the zoning administrator has to review it and determine that everything is complete and ready to go for the public hearing and for planning commission review. So that's part of the unraveling of what we're doing with this case, is trying to get it in the right sequence. But I figured I'd give you like a 5-minute overview on site plan and what an SLUP is. So you have a better understanding next time you get presented with a special land use permit. Because the first decision is the application complete and is the site plan complete? The planning commission should stay away from approving site plans with conditions. For example, I would advise you not to say, well, we like the site plan and we're going to approve it subject to the township engineer's approval. Why you don't want to do that is if the township engineer finds deficiencies in the site plan, it could require changing that plan to something that you're not even familiar with. So you never want to get into a situation where you're approving something tentative upon somebody else's approval. So if the application of the site plan is not complete, then what you do is postpone it until they get all their ducks in a row. Just say, we're not going to take any action on it until you get your permit, you get a letter from the county, maybe maybe you're concerned that the fire department needs to take a look at it for fire safety. And then you ask for all that information as part of the public record. Okay, so I know that some of you have been through training with the planning commission. I know some of you are new, but those that haven't been through the training, that's what the training would teach you, is what's the difference between a site plan and what's the difference between an SLUP and how they work together. Okay, so just to give you a 5-minute update on what to expect the next time you get a request for special land use, because your ordinance has probably 20 different special land uses that can come in for special land use permits. So these are not rare. You guys are gonna see them, and I think you do. So you just need to know how to evaluate them and how to move them through the process.
I got just a question or in reference to that. So on a special land use, the planning commission can deny it for multiple reasons. Not necessarily that they didn't really fit all the parameters. Like if somebody wants to put a gas station in, we say, we already got 3 gas stations on this corridor. Another gas station is not what we want.
Well, that's objective, that's subjective, and the only way you'd be able to do that is by requiring the applicant to provide you with a market study that says that there's a market need for another gas station. But you just can't subjectively say, well, we already have 3, we're not gonna allow 4. We already have a Rite Aid and a Walmart, why do we need a CVS? You can't do that, you have to have something that backs up what your decision-making is. That's why, like, under the fuel station ordinance, we had a list of standards. So when somebody comes in for a gas station, you have to go through each one of those standards to make sure they meet the standards. Because if they don't meet the standards, then that's your reason for that's your reason for denial, is they don't meet the standards. So I always tell planning commissions, when you get a special land use, you have to look at the standards in the ordinance and make sure that application meets those standards. Or else you have no basis for the denial.
Any questions for Mr. Jenner?
Well, we'd be here all night. Thank you.
No, I just wanted to go over that part of the ordinance with you. Special land use requires a complete site plan. If you're just reviewing the site plan, if they meet all of the requirements in Article 10, which is like, does it have a north arrow? Does it have a scale? Is it sealed? Does it meet all the setbacks? Does it meet the lot coverage? If it meets all those requirements, under state statute, you're obligated to approve it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
I've got one question for you.
Yeah.
Under the standards then, in some communities, if there's a question about it not meeting a standard, is it common that they take a poll like you would on a zoning board of appeals of the standards?
They can appeal the standard to the ZBA.
I mean, during the actual special land use permit, if there's a question if standards are being met, can the planning commission actually poll those standards from the planning commission members?
To feel if the PC is in agreement that they meet or don't meet the standard, that's part of your decision-making or your due diligence when you evaluate the application.
At the application time.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
So that should actually be done before the,
Well, it's good for the applicant to understand the standard, so
Yes.
they can address it in their site plan, right?
yes,
But when the planning commission gets together as a group and you're reviewing an application for an SLUP, your decision-making should be based on that section of the ordinance, that application meets all those standards.
yes.
That's what you make your determination on. Nothing subjective. I mean, if you have A to F or you have A to Z, you go through each one and say it meets it or it doesn't meet it, and that's how you evaluate it.
So our director should have a check box for each of those standards for each special land use done.
Yes. I mean, I've seen PCs that actually have
We have them we have check boxes because we are RRC certified and that's one of the best practices for principal uses, but we do not have that for special uses.
Yep.
So the ones that we are just going in and amending now, we should have an actual box.
yeah, the box, or when you have your staff review. And I think I've submitted a couple staff reviews in the past to you guys, is that we have a table, and on the left-hand side, it's got the standard. And on the right-hand side, it says if it's been satisfied or not satisfied, or partially satisfied. So that gives the planning commission a quick idea. Have they met the standard? Have they not? Or have they partially met it? Where the applicant can go back and he can modify it.
And that's on our application for, pre-development application, for pre-development meetings.
Yeah, if you're having a pre-development meeting and somebody that's doing an SLUP,
Mhm.
then my recommendation is the zoning administrator would actually point that section out in the ordinance. Or actually make a copy of it and say, no, you have to understand, you're gonna be evaluated on these standards and just give it to them. I
Yes,
mean,
that's the part I'm trying to get at. That's,
oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so that would be done at the pre-development meeting. With the people at that time would be checking those boxes off.
Yeah.
And then the planning commission should get a copy of what that checked off boxes.
Yeah, anybody that's doing business in your community, I mean, any applicant that's doing anything, there's really two things that you need to install in your culture. One is fairness and one is predictability. And to do fairness and predictability is that you provide them all of the information up front that they need to make a decision if they want to move forward or not. You don't do it after the fact, after
Right.
they spent money on engineering and everything. You let them make that decision up front by providing them that information.
And that's why we have pre-development meetings.
That's the purpose of them, yeah.
Yes.
And that's why we have the ordinance too, because the standards are in the ordinance.
correct.
It's not like it's a mystery to an applicant, they just need to read it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Thank you.
With nothing further to be discussed, it is 6:57. I'll meeting to adjourn.
I'm gonna need you.
Actually,
Oh, you already did? Oh, that's great.
Thanks, John. I'm gonna, work to get some training, and I would like to do, I'm planning on doing essential classes here.
but I-
Should we do that through you, or should I go?
What now? Okay, just tell them, we did everything the proper way. And then do it like we did before.
No.
And like,
Yeah, that's what we'll always do.
In the basis of- I'm what you-
I would like to do
Still
that.
working.
No, no.
You know,
Not-
you wanna do two
not
hours.
specific to
You
you.
think it's taking a half a day,
Yeah.
but
Friday
I
night.
had some.
Yeah, great hour.
Second part of the day.
Yeah, I know, I
Definitely.
find out that I-
Let's let that lower.
That's a small town, everybody. It's a small town, everybody.
Your office?
Yeah,
no. Then we're gonna have final phone call.
Yeah, you may have